Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of our Sovereign podcast. Now, tonight I'm going to say something that really needs to be said. We are living in a world where people are more connected digitally, if I can say that right, than ever before, and yet more disconnected from themselves and each other than at any point in modern history. Entrepreneurs are burning out, communities are fragmenting, and systems that were meant to empower people are now controlling attention, shaping narratives, and amplifying noise instead of truth. But here's the reality. Almost half of the companies on the S&P 500 will disappear in the next decade, according to the World Economic Forum. Why? Because the old way of building, competition, isolation, ego-driven success is collapsing. The future belongs to something else. Alignment, collaboration, sovereign thinking. People are willing, people who are willing to question the narratives, people who are willing to reconnect with themselves. People who understand that real progress happens when the right people find each other and build together. And that's exactly why we built Vision. Not another social platform, but infrastructure for a different kind of future. A future where people connect around truth, purpose, and collaboration, not algorithms. And the Sovereign podcast exists to explore the deeper conversations behind that shift. Conversations about awareness, about nature, about intuition, about the courage to think independently in a world that constantly tells you what to believe. Because sovereignty doesn't start with systems, it starts within ourselves. And which brings me to tonight's guest. Wow, I am so excited to welcome Fiona Kable. Fiona's work explores something that modern society has almost forgotten: our profound relationship with nature, consciousness, and the intelligence of the natural world. Because when we reconnect with nature, we reconnect with ourselves. And then what happens? Everything changes. So let me bring on this astounding woman looking so beautiful tonight. Hey, Fiona.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh my God, I'm so excited. So, Fiona, for people who may be meeting you for the first time tonight, please share a little bit about your journey and what first led you to explore the relationship between nature and human awareness.
Oh, I love that intro as well. It is just speaks to everything that my whole being is following now. And interestingly, the reason for that is my journey, because I was one of those people that could not have been more disconnected, completely caught up in the system, deeply in my conditioning and behaviors, and totally unaware of any of these things and why they were driving me into the ground. So, round about my early 40s, I was in a really bad way. From the outside, I looked really successful. I had a great family. I had the home. I had the career. I had community around me. I had everything going. But underneath it, I was absolutely exhausted, completely covered in anxiety, unable to sleep. My digestion didn't work. I had every ache and pain you could ever possibly imagine running through my body. I was an absolute mess, but you would never have known. I was really high functioning on the outside and falling apart on the inside. And and unfortunately, this is actually almost an epidemic in
Yeah.
women
Mhm.
around the world. So I was to understand this as I went on my own journey. But burning out, and my patterns I kept up. Why do I go into a job and after 2 years I literally can't function anymore, moving through job after job? And that burnout forced me to slow down because it was at that point that I began to start to question what was going on and looking at what was happening internally. So, one of the biggest shifts in my life happened. I am so fortunate to live in one of the most beautiful parts of the world, which is a little town called Lennox Head, which is near Byron Bay in New South Wales, Australia. It has the most gorgeous beach. And I started going down at sunrise and trying to do meditation because my brain wasn't very good at that. But it was the sunrise that supported me and
Wow.
still does to this day. And it was just that reconnection with that beach, with nature, learning to walk mindfully
Mm.
because I would do a walk and 30 minutes later I would come back and have no memory of the walk because I was thinking, doing what do I need to do, putting the world to rights in my head. And so learning to do a walk, focusing on my feet, on my
Mm.
legs, going through my whole body. And that would take me half of the walk. And then on the walk back, I would try and feel what I could feel. So what was the air on my skin? What could I hear, smell, see? Then start to work through my chakra system, whatever I could do to stay in my body during that walk to help me to come out of here and back into here. And so nature was absolutely one of the most profound support systems for me to reconnect me back to what was really important and my body and my natural rhythms. And through that journey, as I began to understand what had happened to me, I retrained as a counselor, as a quantum coach, which works with energy and emotional release, and mind body approaches, and learning how to regulate your nervous system. And as the more I work with people, the more I saw that when people slow down and reconnect with themselves, they also begin to reconnect with nature around them and then with each other.
Oh, wow. That is beautiful. My God. I love that. And I think you're quite right when it says it does happen to a lot of women. I can totally resonate with that because very similar, kind of being in that sort of professional world and looking really good on the outside, laughing all the time, joking. But deep down, I didn't feel in control of my
Mm-hmm.
authenticity.
Yeah,
And I just love how you've connected with nature. It's such a powerful thing.
yeah,
So, like, for example, when you hear the word sovereignty, because I think this kind of relates,
yeah.
what does that mean to you personally?
Well, I think the word that comes up for me with sovereignty is discernment. And
Mm,
the reason I say that is
yeah,
because for so long I was told what to do, what to think, what to say, and it's taken me years and years and years to be discerning about what is it my thought, is it my am I creating that? Is that idea mine, or is that idea something somebody said that then makes me think that that's where I need to go? Because my conditioning was really deep, as
yeah,
is most of ours. We are told, our parents often do the best job they can, but they're just doing what their parents did and their parents did, and they're telling you what they want you to be because it supports them.
yeah,
And that is, there's nothing about that is wrong. It just is. We're
yeah.
all in this same, well, not many of us anymore. I feel like we're breaking out. But we're all in this same kind of flow of, well, the news says this, the radio says this, my teachers say this is how I need to be because this is what society has expectations. So being discerning and working that discernment muscle and understanding that being sovereign to yourself, it's not about control or even independence.
Yeah.
It's purely coming back to this relationship that you have with yourself and understanding what is yours and what might be somebody else's energy, somebody else's ideas, somebody else's expectations. And the way to get to that, which is really profound, is knowing your values, which is
Yes.
a really simple thing. And so many people don't even know what their values are. And once you know your values, then you can really start to understand your own truth. And then once you have your own truth, then you can work out your inner compass, that inner intuition that is allowing you, that's giving you all the messages and the guidance. So yeah, I suppose sovereignty is allowing yourself to live not from conditioning, fear, or external expectations, and not overriding your own instincts, and just remembering in here how to listen to everything that your beautiful body is telling you and your heart.
That, I love that. That totally aligns. I think, you know, it's really a very simple thing to know your value. When you hear, when you say those words, to know your values, it feels quite simple. But I think we've become so much submersed into this societal programming and
Mm-hmm.
paradigm from our parents that when people ask that question, like, what are your values? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
let me think about that one.
Well, it is. It's often something when I work with my clients and we do it, we have to, I have to support them to go into quite a deep meditative space to really start to feel into what it is that makes them feel really alive, lit up, excited, because
Yeah.
often they go, I don't know. And that's the starting point. It's like, well, let's find out your values. That's number one.
Absolutely, yeah. And, do you think that's why, many people have lost connection? Why is it that so many people have lost connection with their inner compass? Because our values are that inner compass.
Yeah. Well, it's when you're told by your school what
Yeah.
success looks like, then you head off. You've, oh, I've got to get this grade. I have to go to university. When you're told by adverts and magazines that you read how you should live, what you should look like. When you are told by whether it's parents or caregivers or whoever that what we should value in life, it just becomes, it's coming in from every angle what you should do. And that's you are very, unless you have an amazing opportunity as a very young child who has this beautiful open purity about them to stay in that space, you will very quickly be told what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And as a child, you just, you don't know any different. What I feel like, because obviously now we have the digital noise and comparison culture, you've talked about comparison. Comparison steals joy. The
Yeah.
moment you start to compare yourself, because you are such a uniquely beautiful individual, you can't be compared to anybody else. I can't be compared to you because you have your own unique gifts and you're supposed to be in this world to do this. I can't compare myself to anybody else. And the moment I do, it begins to diminish myself, diminish them. And we have been taught, particularly as women, to fight each other, to
Yeah.
compete, to tear each other down, and to compare. And it's a great way to keep us separate. It works. However, it's not working anymore. And women are starting to understand that when we stand in who we are, we can't be compared to because we are unique. So, and but that unfortunately, I believe, has created deep disconnection, nervous system being stuck in survival mode,
Yeah.
and you can't. You're busy. You're going. You don't have that time just to sit and listen. So you can't hear your intuition. Your intuition is a little whisper, whereas the fear is a big shout. So being that stillness, that quiet, that slowness is when you can hear your intuition. Um, but what I believe it's created is an incredible epidemic of loneliness
Yes.
because we're disconnected to ourselves, we're disconnected to our families, a lot to our friends. We don't really connect on that deeper level. And then our communities. And so loneliness just becomes the normal, which is really sad.
It is really sad, and I think you're quite right. It's like from what I said at the very beginning, this world that, that's created social media and, where it's kind of like connection, it actually has created an epidemic of loneliness because
Mm.
of this comparison, because I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, which for me, it's that hang on a minute, we've created something that is social, but
Mm-hmm.
it creates that feeling of loneliness. It's just
Yeah,
a horrible thing for us to experience and endure. And,
yeah,
that's why we've created that Wesion. We've created Wesion before connection, collaboration, and coming together and community. And I
yeah,
embrace that being, my father being Italian and my mother half Greek, half Maltese, and the joy and happiness that I see in communities that don't have the material things, but have the
mm,
beauty of nature and community and people around them. It's just liberating.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is the most important uh, thing. I think it's one, loneliness is one of the number one cause of mental health,
Yeah.
like depression I think even in the Dan Brutner in the blue zones, which are the people that live the longest, like community connection can increase your lifespan by 50%.
Yeah, it's
Having
incredible.
good community connections. So
Yeah.
this is really important.
So important. But based on what you do and what you teach, tell us a bit more about how someone can actually begin to reconnect with their own inner truth through nature and through the teachings that you bring to the world and how you serve
Yeah.
others.
Yeah, so nature is a beautiful mirror for us, as is so many things in the world. So and on my journey, as I said, it was the thing that helped me to slow down the most. And when you allow nature to show you what nature has, like it's just it there are so many patterns in nature, there are seasons in nature, there are ups, there are downs, and there's cycles.
Yeah.
So even allowing ourselves just to sit and watch a leaf kind of gently falling to the floor and just allowing yourself to sit in that moment and notice that this is the end of a cycle for this particular tree. It's shedding its leaves, it's ready to go into its rest cycle, and um, there's growth, then there's rest, then there's renewal with nature. It happens over and over again, and we're the same. We are the same. We can't stay at the exact same pace, which our lives kind of dictate to us. So you work five days a week from 9 till 5, and then you have a couple of parties or functions or whatever on the weekend, and then you go back again and again, and then you have a 2 week holiday where you basically lie down going, what is going on? Then you probably get sick because your nervous system is just gone there for the moment. But it's the same, the same,
Yeah.
the same, the same. And particularly for women, we have seasons, we have a monthly cycle, we have a hormonal change that goes through that cycle. We
Oh
have
yeah.
rest periods. It's literally the cycle of a woman every month is growth, rest, renewal,
Hmm.
growth, rest, renewal. How
Never thought of
many of
that.
us go, I'm in my rest period, which means I'm actually going to say no to these things that are in my calendar, and I'm going to honor my body, and I'm going to slow down, and I'm not going to go out, or I might even with work, I might even gift myself a day of rest
Yeah.
because I know that everything's going to stay as alive. No one's dying if I don't go to work, but
Yeah.
we're in these, we can't see this when we're in that. And I know I was one of them. If I stop, everything falls apart. That was a belief that I held
Yes.
deep within me. It's absolute rubbish. And I
Yes.
know this. I've done a lot of work on this, but I actually, in January, fractured my knee and pulled my ACL out on a ski slope and put myself on crutches for 6 weeks. And I am booked in for an ACL reconstruction in 3 weeks' time.
Wow.
And guess what? Everything carried on while I was on crutches. And in fact, it was a beautiful opportunity for me to go into deep slowness, deep rest, and deep receiving,
Yeah.
which is another thing that not just women, men, all of us, I'll manage, I'm fine. I had no choice but to ask somebody to go get that cup of tea for me because I have no hands because I'm on crutches. So being put into a situation where you absolutely have to slow down and rest and ask and receive. And so I was grateful for the mountain because the mountain gave my nervous system probably the biggest rest.
Yeah.
And so you just like the connection I had with nature while I was away skiing was please protect me, mountain. And then I fall down and hurt myself. And I'm like, well, thank you for the lesson because I needed to see that the world still functions when I'm not holding everybody.
Yes.
So, and without this natural rhythm that we have, you get burnout, anxiety, and complete disconnection from the body. So, it just reminds us that rest and renewal are not weaknesses, they're part of our sustainability. And what will happen if you ignore it is you will have to rest and restore because the universe will create something for you to do it.
Yeah. That is so true. And I can think of many situations where that's happened, where in the moment it's kind of been like, what the actual? And then it's kind of like, then when you have that gratitude and that understanding of actually why this has happened, because it's giving you that opportunity to go through those cycles. And I think it's such an eye opener. I think it's wonderful, really beautiful.
Yeah,
But
and that whole experience for me has slowed me down that I don't plan on going back to the speed I was before.
yeah,
And even within this, I couldn't go to the beach because of my leg. I can't walk on sand. There's lots of things that came up that actually were stopping me from going to the places that I had created as my nature spaces. So then I had to adapt. So I'm working out, well, where can I go that has a parking spot that's quite close to somewhere I can sit down and put my feet in the grass? Where is there somewhere I can watch the sunrise that means that I don't have to walk very far from where I'm parking my car? And obviously I'm super lucky to be living in such a beautiful space. But there is nature everywhere. You can create the most beautiful window boxes on in an apartment to just have that connection with watching something grow. There are parks in cities everywhere, and you can find yourself just that little bit of space that makes you just feel really grounded. And particularly if you're in somewhere that is highly built up with lots of concrete, finding that ground to be able to go and sit on and just have a moment. I am always absolutely blown away when I feel like I am quite heightened. My mind is going, and I'm really kind of quite anxious. If I go and find somewhere just to sit for 5-10 minutes, it will significantly bring my nervous system down. And that didn't happen immediately. I was so deeply down, the anxiety and the overwhelm, that I had to do it a lot more. But I've got to a point now where I can allow myself very short periods of time, I can come back. But with all of these things, they're practices. They're
Yeah.
practices we start doing. So if it doesn't work the first time, if you sit there for 10 minutes, I'm just as exhausted as I was before.
Yeah.
However, you've just gifted yourself 10 minutes that you would not have.
Yeah.
So really, really celebrating that part. And then maybe the next time you sit down, you actually do feel a little bit better. And the next time you go, oh, look at those birds. Oh, I was out of my mind for a moment then.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. I mean, we just sometimes we just forget the simplicity around us. Nature is this just beautiful, wonderful things that sometimes we forget, but it can be just the most, you know, wonderful thing for us to heal.
Mm,
And I think the more I've explored that nature where my father grew up, I think, I'm very much the city girl growing up in London. But there's a big part of me rooted within the nature of my father growing
mm.
up in the country. So, oh yeah, I've got goosebumps. This is amazing. Um, I absolutely would love your take on community. And what role do you think community and collaboration play in which I feel, and I hope you agree, kind of like this new chapter of human consciousness?
Oh, where do I start with community? This is such a huge part of my life's purpose. And so on my journey, as I went through, as I've talked about a lot of this really, really big stuff that I was working through, getting therapy, being coached, training to be a coach, reading every book under the sun, all of that. It was actually the women in my life who held me through all of that that were the most important part of the puzzle.
Yeah,
It was, they listened to me without judgment. They let me cry. They they picked me up when I was playing small. Like they held me to account.
yeah,
They laughed with me. They were instrumental in my healing journey, and it kind of was a bit of a shock to me. I'm so grateful. There's a group of 5 of us who are all real wisdom holders, and we held each other through our ups and our downs. There wasn't any enabling. There wasn't any sitting there having a whinge and a moan. It was genuine, authentic
yeah,
love connection in all the ways that love can be sometimes quite harsh. So there were times when I might have been talking about something that's a deep wound, and one of them will be like, well, have you reflected on why that's happening for you and not that person? And those are the kind of conversations that were like, they just did not allow me to fall into that victim place. But what really shocked me was I realized that that was quite a unique situation that I had, and that not every woman has that. And actually, a lot of women have absolutely no one in their life that they really feel they can be safe
yeah,
and trust. And so I actually reached out in July 2024 and just said, oh, in my local community, if you feel like you need someone to talk to, I'll be at this cafe at 6:30 on a Thursday morning. Come along. And one woman turned up that morning, and we had the most beautiful conversation, and she really needed some support. And then the next week there were 3 women, and then the next week 6. And then I thought, oh, I'll make a Facebook group up. I might add a lunch in here. And it has grown now. I started to reach out for hosts because I was only touching into one little town. And I could only do one meetup or 2 meetups a month. And then so we grew to five hosts, 5 towns, 10 hosts, 10 towns.
Wow.
Today we have over 1,000 women that have joined the group. We have 13
Incredible.
hosts across 10 towns. So this is 20 months. This has just gone like this. So, and when they join the group, I ask them what is missing for them or for the community. And it is extraordinary what they write. Solo mum, parenting neurodiverse children, moved to the area because grandchildren need my help. I've walked away from a toxic relationship. I'm starting again in my 50s. I self isolate and need some support. It goes on and on and on. And every single one of these women is reaching out from a space of
Amazing.
loneliness and need for connection. So this is just showing that community is not really available for them. However, we then go on the other side of what's happening for these women that are coming out and joining these gatherings and starting to make friends and feeling like they're held in a safe, non-judgmental space.
Yeah.
And they're starting businesses, they're leaving harmful relationships, they're celebrating milestones with 15 women, whereas last year they spent their birthday by themselves. They are feeling more aligned to what they're doing. They're making better decisions. Their nervous systems are settling. There's a support network coming out within that they're sharing their gifts. There's, businesses being supported. I can go on and on about
Wow.
the value of one coffee 20 months ago. And and so seeing how the loneliness is just basically is being prevented. It's preventative healthcare,
Yeah.
which is insane, right? We do
Yeah.
all of this stuff in the healthcare industry. Here's some antidepressants.
Yeah.
Oh, like
Oh, don't get me
maybe you
started.
maybe you need to get better sleep. Like, let's how do we sort out what's going on for you? It's actually really simple. It is having a community where you can reach out when you need support, having a community where you know that if you just knocked on someone's door, they'd just take you in and listen to what you have to say. It's also having a community that will band together if there's um, grieving or something difficult's happened within the community. And that is what I believe is happening now
Yeah.
in our local community, because I'm doing this. There's other people that are starting to build it. I don't know if you're noticing this happening in your local communities, but I'm seeing more and more people being guided and um, intuited to create community groups. And it's becoming a much more normal space now, but it still needs support. We need funding for this. Instead of funding the preventative stuff, or the symptomatic stuff,
Yeah.
doing something like this is actually going to prevent a lot of money going into healthcare systems, and also a lot of people going through really difficult experiences.
Wow. That is incredible. And, I celebrate you, Fiona, because, from one, small thing where you said, hey, come and meet me for coffee has expanded into
Mm.
this. And, that is incredible. So, congratulations. And I think, you know, um, it's just totally aligns with everything that I value, and why we've built our Wesion platform, because it's not necessarily about, being online, but it's about being offline and
Mm.
creating worlds with people that align and connect with you and understand you as an individual with your authenticity and your values. And
Yeah.
it's just powerful. And, you're quite right to have that opportunity to feel safe,
Yeah.
because that's something that, we are very much keen to do. And I want to build like huge hubs around the UK and do our nomadic lifestyle and, create that sort of where it relates to our sort of nervous system as well and create that space for us. So amazing that I just love that. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. So you're wonderful. Um, so
Well, I mean,
the
I was lucky, right? I had this
yeah,
beautiful group of women in my life,
yeah,
and I just thought that that was the norm, and so it was a real eye opener for me to
yeah,
be on this journey, to talk to the hundreds and hundreds of women now that come through my life, and realize what is actually really going on behind closed doors.
yeah,
If we talk about the high functioning woman who's doing everything and got everything like outside sorted, but really struggling on the inside. But there's a lot of women that are not high functioning, and they are the ones that are really struggling because they don't have any social networks out there,
yeah,
or they feel so minimized and small. I've had a couple of times when women have told me that they've been watching and watching, and that I'm going to come, I'm going to come, and eventually they get the courage to come along to one of the gatherings, and they're very tentative, and they're like, oh, is this the women's thing? And they're just met with like, oh, we're so happy you're here, come sit down. And someone will immediately kind of like, tell me about you. And that woman, you can just see, it's just like an exhale of her body, that she's like, wow, you are interested in me. You're
yeah,
really genuinely happy to see me. I feel really like welcome in here. And you can see that she's not used to those feelings. She's not
yeah,
used to being held and seen. And quite often, the first time they come, they'll end up crying for the whole. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't normally do this. And it's like you're relaxing your nervous
yeah,
system. You're allowing yourself to feel safe, to feel emotions that you've been holding inside for so long. And yeah, and maybe that woman never comes back again. Maybe she just needed that one time, but potentially she goes back into her life and she makes some decisions that she's been procrastinating about or not
yeah,
feeling safe enough to make.
yeah,
So you do not know what the ripple effect is. And for women, the ripple
absolutely.
effect into community is so huge. We are the linchpin of usually of our families, often of the workplace. With all the women are all in the customer service team, they're in the admin team, they're supporting the execs. They're that linchpin. And if the ripple effect of raising their frequency and vibration, of helping them to feel more empowered, of making them feel more confident and comfortable in making decisions, that goes out into every part of our community. And sometimes that means that they stand up and go, no more, not okay. I'm leaving that job. I'm leaving that relationship. I'm putting boundaries down at home. I'm not going to be the slave for everybody anymore. And that starts to support everyone else in that world. So, are the children being taught how to stand on their own 2 feet with being resilient and going out being really strong, good humans? Or are they being taught to people please like mum does all the time?
Yeah,
Or the martyr, don't worry, I'll just do everything and then I'll be bitter and twisted underneath. And, is the husband who is unaware of his behaviors going to go, oh, hang on a second, she's pushing back on some of the things that I do or say? Then it's up to that person. Do they then go and start their own healing work and understanding their own patterns of behaviors, or are they not ready? And that naturally goes that way until that person is ready to go and look at what they need to look at. Does that person walk into a workplace and hold someone to account that's been causing serious bullying for many people and making such a toxic workplace? And that person stands up and goes, that's not okay, and shifts the whole of the culture of a workplace. It can actually be really simple,
yeah.
but it starts with that feeling of belonging, of safety, and self love.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Fiona, where have you been? We're so much in alignment especially when you mentioned the ripple effect. That's exactly why we've built what we have with Vision, the platform. Everything is about that
Mm,
ripple effect. As soon as you connect, you collaborate, big, amazing things can happen. And, when you talk about, with the women as well, when I like go and visit when my dad grew up, and especially with Italian women, just that congregation of women, and they all come together and have their little gossip, but it's actually something that's serving them in many ways. And that's why I just think it's, whenever I see my aunts, we go to an event and you see the women over there,
Mm.
you just know that it's this concoction of sort of like laughter and joy and merriment. And they love what they're doing. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
it's
wonderful.
beautiful. And women are always gathered and are always meant to gather. And
Yeah,
then all of a sudden we're like, where is the gathering? We don't
yeah,
have any. So you kind of like, I'm intentionally rebuilding that. And I would absolutely love us to get back to a point where it's the norm again. It's like,
yes,
oh, I'm celebrating menopause today. Who wants to come
yeah,
to my celebration of menopause day? We
yeah,
have a beautiful teen who's just stepped into womanhood. Let's celebrate her and, keep the ceremonial parts of us going. And, the other thing that we're doing as well, which is really important because, you and I are both running businesses. And so and I've been in the corporate world for a long time, till I moved myself out of that. We do networking events as well, and we're teaching women the other way to do networking. So we're not in there. It's not a hard sell. It's not come in there and just like promote your business.
yeah,
It's we're sharing. So we're sharing about our gifts and what we can do. We bring food along because women gather
yeah,
and love to make food and love to
absolutely.
talk over food.
Yeah,
We invite people who don't have businesses because it's a really great way to get inspiration, to see what other women are doing. Sometimes you're not sure and something's in there, but maybe just sitting and talking, listening to that woman who's talking about the moment that her thing came through, sparks something in you. We're really teaching the comparison and competition part that's just not needed. And um, and then and while you're at these networking events, it's that co-collaboration. You might meet somebody that you can work with as well. And so each time a woman is learning not to compete, not to compare, and to be really sovereign in
yeah,
herself, that then lifts up everything that she does.
yeah,
And, we're talking about women here because that's my world and that's what I do. But this actually also can cross over into men as well and
yeah,
supporting them to come out of that competition and comparison, because I actually think it's worse with men because the ego and the need to be the provider and all of that, and they're really struggling at the moment. Men, they just really
yeah,
do not know where they stand in this new world, in this new, women are standing up and going, okay, I'm not putting up with that anymore, I'm going off and I'm happy to be by myself over here now. And the guy is like, well, what does that mean for me? So I would like to see much, much more community for men in where they can really feel like they are safe
yeah,
and they can share in a place that's non-judgmental. That's the gap at the moment that women have got. Women know how to do this, and there's many, many women out there facilitating this because it's so deep within us as a natural space.
yeah,
But that storytelling around the fire where men sit and they share through stories. Right? They don't generally sit there and go, "Well, I feel really sad today," but they'll sit around the campfire and they'll do things together like hunting or
yeah,
um, something that's really getting that masculine testosterone, that they need, and then they come back and they gather.
yeah,
That's what's so missing for them,
yeah,
and that's where this deep, that what comes out in women when women are lonely, it comes out often in that kind of minimizing, being small, people pleasing. With men it can come out in anger and frustration
yeah,
and just being lost little boys inside that do not know how to manage that,
yeah,
which is why you're getting so many men that are unable to kind of like move forward because they don't know how to access that part of themselves at all.
yeah. Oh, I love that. I mean, I'd really love to hear your thoughts though about what do you think about community ownership? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, it's actually a very, very big part of what I'm building. So, for us as a community, we've been trying to go through Facebook as a platform to build the group, and we know that that's not going to be able to sustain us. And so, I am actually in the process of building out a platform for Conscious Women Connect, which is the community group myself, because it's a totally similar thing that you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
got to be done with the women, so we're building it together. I am no leader. I don't see myself as a leader. I am a visionary who has a vision, and I am bringing in the hosts that come in at the moment. I sit in collaboration with them all the time, and I always invite, please tell me your thoughts. Please give me your feedback, because I'm only one person over here with my set of skills. You guys have all your own beautiful, unique skills. You sit there with women in your different um, host meetups, you come across all sorts of things. What do they say? What do they want? What are we doing that's working? What's not working? How can we improve it? And it is the most amazing feeling, because I do not feel like I'm over here running this by myself. Now, everything is volunteer led in what we're doing. All the hosts are doing it for free. I've invested in my own platform that I'm building out, and I don't know how that's going to abundantly grow at the moment. I just know it's really needed, because the way that the way that the it's set up at the moment is that there's algorithms, so half people don't see the posts or the updates,
Exactly.
and this is a group that is very much about live events that are happening, that people can't actually see what's happening in. So it's very frustrating, and it's built on the old energy anyway.
Yes.
So creating something that is community owned, really, by all these women, that we can do together, is so important and so powerful. And so I think what you're creating is exactly the same. It is so needed. And I think the online and offline needs to work together, because
Yeah.
obviously people still have busy lives, and having online options within a platform is so important too. Because if we're running if we've got 10 gatherings that are all happening as morning teas and lunches, and someone works 9 to 5, they can't make any of those. And so if you have some online evening or weekend options for people who can jump in from anywhere, then you're supporting everything. So I think it's not just online, it's not just face to face, it's a community that comes together and has all of these different options.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have to say, Fiona, I think the universe has brought us together for a reason, because I'm just I'm blown away just with the alignment, the understanding of why we built what we have, our values, everything about connection and alignment. Uh, this is a wonderful evening. So I would this I'm so excited. Um, if there just to end this conversation, because it's been an amazing one, and I'm so grateful to you, Fiona, because for viewers who are watching, this has been an eye opener. This is something, check out Fiona, see what she's doing. But if there was one message that you could leave people with tonight about, living more consciously and authentically, what would it be? Would it be community?
Yes, I think the first message, because it all starts with yourself and
Yeah,
the sovereignty of yourself, is go at the pace that you can stay aligned.
yeah,
So that's really, really important, because that might actually mean slowing down right when you think you should be speeding up. So if you can get yourself into a space where you're understanding that your body, everything is saying no, and go, okay, that's all right. Yes, I have that business meeting. Yes, I have all those things. They're all calling at me and pulling at me. but I'm listening to what I need today, and my body's saying no.
Yeah.
So, and it's the hardest thing when you are used to, excuse me, when you're used to just putting, like, stopping listening to that, pushing through every time. When you're used to doing that, it feels so insanely wrong to put yourself first, but it absolutely will totally change your life,
Yeah.
because you're a magnet, so you're magnetizing back in what you're putting out. So if you're putting out exhaustion, overwhelm, or lack, or whatever it is, because that's what you're feeling inside, you're just going to keep drawing that back in.
Yeah.
But if you're saying, I'm grateful for my body for telling me today that I need to rest, and I'm actually going to say no to that meeting just because I need to have a little bit of a slower day today, then you start to put out love for yourself, because you've put yourself first, and that you are having abundant, you're giving yourself abundant time. So what you're putting out into the universe is self-love and abundance. So potentially that meeting that you didn't have might then you have needed to not have it, because that person actually needed to go and sort something out, so that when they came back and had that meeting, it actually was a better outcome.
Yes.
You just don't know what it means, but it will continue to produce benefits even if you don't see it straight away. So the world doesn't need more perfect people that are perfectly sitting in this perfect little world that we're being told we need. It needs people who are willing to slow down, listen to themselves, and live in alignment with what they know to be true. And when that happens, so when we're reconnecting with ourselves, we naturally reconnect with other people, which is where the community comes in, because we're not going to go out and find that community if we're sitting at home going, I don't deserve it.
Yes.
No one wants me, or that's not what I need. So we have to reconnect in here first. Then we naturally reconnect with our community and with each other. And then we reconnect with our planet, because we're much more in alignment. And that's where the real change begins. So that's my closing piece.
I love it, Fiona. It has been such an honor to have this conversation with you this evening. There is huge alignment. I love absolutely everything that you've said. Where can people learn more about you?
So my website is www.fionakable.com. That's cable with a K, because everyone writes the cable with a C. And you can find, so you'll find out more about what I offer in my coaching and counseling programs. You can find out more about Conscious Women Connect on that website. And my vision is that that grows so that it's a model that can be replicated everywhere, because we don't just want one little pocket of northern New South Wales in Australia to be benefiting from community. I'd love to just be able to roll that out wherever anybody wants to start community. So that's what I'm calling in funding at the moment for this amazing movement that I'm creating. So if it's talk to you, if there's anyone you know that knows grant pathways or has really beautiful deep pockets that wants to support something that their heart is really aligned with, I would love to hear from you. And you can reach me at fionakable@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Fiona. Just, I think there's huge alignment here. And guys, if you just really align with what Fiona is saying, if you align with what we are building as well, reach out to us, contact us directly. But and join me tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time, where I will have the fabulous Karen Keeney, and it's going to be amazing. But thank you so much, Fiona. This has been
Thank
phenomenal.
you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Bye.
welcome.